that was a note. Hi, maybe. Alright, I will come on. Alrighty, let's see. Doop-a-doo. Nope, not that one. There we go. Hello. Oh, that's loud. Let me turn that down. Hello, everybody. How is everyone doing today? It begins, Joel. Hello, Lewis, Gozer, Joel, Someone Awesome, Danny Miller Gaming, Demi, Twin River, Orion Send, Kestra, Michael Anderson Doyle, Little Boy Boy? Or maybe that's your name. Maybe. Jovial, Big Bug Guy Online, otherwise known as Levi. Of course I acknowledge you. Thank you for being here and acknowledging me. Mwah, you are lovely. I'm so glad to have you here. Crystal Wright, Golgari Soul. I know, I'm struggling with post. Look what I'm wearing my Lower Decks shirt because in honor of the Lower Decks finale today. I may have just written today. So to let everyone know, I'll talk a little bit about this later. I've actually been having a lot of anxiety lately post the Matt Walsh video for my own. I've been having a lot of writing anxiety post the Matt Walsh video, so I took today to be less angry at myself and mean to myself, because I've been kind of mean to myself the past few days anxiety-wise. And I just wrote my Lower Deck Season 3 review, and it just came out really easily. It came out really well. It's long, as it usually is. I wish I could write videos that were not longer than 6 pages, but I wrote my Lower Decks review, and it was just really nice to have a thing that, like, didn't have a lot of, like, it didn't have to talk about hard issues. It was just talking about something I loved, and it flowed really easily. So you'll all be getting my Star Trek Lower Deck Season 3 overall review in possibly next week, depending on how long it takes me to shoot and edit it. But it was really nice, and I already miss Lower Decks. It is, you know, writing that video just reminded me of how much it is my favorite show. Just on right now. It is everything. You know, I don't think it's the best show on right now. I think it's up there, but I don't know if it's the best show on right now. But for me, it is the show that I think speaks to my soul on every level, and I just adore it so much. And it was just nice. It just made me feel good to write about it. And write about, like, how much I love Tendi. I'm actually thinking, I think I said this in another stream, I'm thinking of getting a Tendi tattoo. That's a story for another day. But, anywho, before we, hold on, I'll answer that question in a second. Before we get too much further, I do want to, just let everyone know, first off, to those of you who are new here, welcome to my weekly chat stream every Thursday for about an hour or so. I just hang out and chill with all of you. I talk about whatever you want to talk about. I give hearts to super chats, like, apologies if I say your name wrong, but Aikida Hakubi, I probably terribly mispronounced it, but heart to you. I try to answer the super chat questions as best I can, but otherwise I try to keep up with whatever's going on in the chat and just talk about what all you want to talk about. We just hang out. It's chill. It's a fun time. Sometimes we talk about hard issues. Sometimes we talk about random Star Trek stuff. Whatever you all want to. So I hope it's just a fun time for all of you. Ace Bobcat. Oh my god, do you want me to talk to... I'll rant at you about Star Trek if you want me to rant at you about Star Trek. Star Trek... quick pitch. Star Trek is this weird sci-fi franchise that has the strangest things in it. It's got weird aliens, weird stories. It's a little horny at times, and yet it is a show that always has hope for the future. It is a show, unlike most other big science fiction franchise and things like that, where every show in its own way is about showing us a way towards, like, believing that the future can be a better place, how to build a better future, and more importantly, the two things that I always take away from Star Trek beyond just its hopeful look at the future is its love of community and others and diversity. In just an earnest way, how the show often textually is about communities forming together and how we are all stronger, not just out of like working together, but out of respecting and understanding and loving and taking delight in the differences of others. And then on top of that, it's also a show that showcases to us that humanity is flawed, and yet we are always working to overcome our flaws, to try to work to be better, and that it's not about being perfect. You know, sometimes people say Star Trek is about a utopia and that it's like a perfect future for humanity. It's like, no, the future of Star Trek is not perfect, but it's better. And the reason it's better is because we as humans acknowledge that we are flawed beings and that we accept that, but we always strive to be more than we are. That we will never, in the words of Gene Roddenberry, we'll never reach our ultimate goal of being perfect, but we will always strive for that. That even when we fail, we will say, okay, let's work to be better next time. And that's, I think, the beautiful thing about Star Trek and why I always love it and why I need it in my soul and why I recommend it to literally everybody. Also, it's a weird, kooky franchise that talks about politics and stuff, but also then we'll have strange episodes about sex salamanders. So what more could you ask for? Literally everything you could ever want. Like serious topics, hope for the future, and then also just weird, off-brand, like crazy storylines every once in a while. It's freaking fantastic. Let's see. Oh, that sounds fun, Moonflower Gal. Yeah, I would love to do a Stargate costume. Maybe not the Goa'uld, just because of the cultural implications of it. For me personally, I'm not speaking for you. But I think I would love to do like Rodney McKay, who's my favorite character, or Wraith would be kind of cool. I think it'd be kind of fun. Like Stargate Atlantis is my favorite Stargate, so that'd be kind of fun. I did miss a couple super chats. Let me just get those really quickly. And address those, and then we'll just talk about stuff. But apologies, Aikidia Hikubi, apologies, I probably terribly mispronounced you, so apologies for that. You said Ishtar, Isis, and Aphrodite say trans rights. They canonically welcome gay and trans people. This is not projecting modern ideas on ancients they were accepting than some people realize. No, that's often the case. I mean, I can't speak specifically to those gods because I'm not up to date on all of them in terms of their history and cultural context and things like that. But there are many gods and mythologies and stories and people that we're accepting of people across different spectrums of sexuality and gender. And obviously, like, what we think of as trans today is very much informed by our cultural context. Like, it is hard to say, like, a person from, like, another culture 300, 400, 500, thousands of years ago was, like, a trans person in the same way we think about trans people today. But you could see parallels in certain cultural contexts that you could be like, yeah, that kind of matches with what we're talking about, / like these people would be accepting of these things. Like, for example, the one that I always love to use is Loki in Norse mythology. Loki in Norse mythology was a character that, like, both presented as a woman at times, like literally would just like put on women's clothing and things like that, but just and still be like Loki, but present as a woman. And so it'd be like like literally he would be a man wearing women's clothing. But then also at other times he would become a woman, not just like in terms of having a womb or things like that, but like literally take on the essence of being a woman. Like, for example, there was a moment in Norse mythology where Thor and Loki pretended to be bridesmaids, and Thor was described as like looking very like manly and buff and being very uncomfortable in a bridesmaid's outfit, where Loki was actually described using equivalent to like female pronouns and like qualifiers, saying like she had the spirit of a woman in those moments, which is distinct from when she like would put on women's clothing in Norse mythology. And then there are also times where she literally could give birth as well and have like a vagina and like a womb and things like that, which is also a different thing as well. So like Loki was a very fluid character in almost every sense, in terms of gender presentation, in terms of gender expression, in terms of gender identity, and also in terms of like biological like sex and abilities. So like Loki as a person, I wouldn't necessarily say Loki is like a trans person, because very much how we think about trans today is very much bound to our sort of Western cultural idea of like man versus woman. And I say that specifically versus because we sort of like create this hierarchical, patriarchal structure based out of Western cultural society, or Western society today. So transness in our sort of culture today, at least mine, I can't speak for everyone who's in the chat because I'm sure many of you from all over the world. But for the culture that I am in, there's a very specific understanding of what trans is. But you could certainly read parallels and similar experiences into characters throughout history and people throughout history, like Loki. So yeah, I hope that's an interesting thing there. Let's see, catching up on some more super chats here. Did someone say, is Jessie gay? Because I saw that, I think I just saw it, but my thing just skipped ahead, so I might have missed. Did someone ask if I was gay? Because yes. Where did I see that? I thought, did someone ask that? I don't, maybe I just made that up. I thought I just saw someone, someone asked, is Jessie gay? but I'm bisexual if anyone's curious. I don't know where I saw that question. Maybe I just missed it in this chat. But anyways, Danny Miller Gaming, heart to you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Mwah. You are lovely. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Bug Guy Online, or Levi, excuse me. Mwah. Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying I'm glowing today. And hello, Madrick. Welcome, my Brazilian trans girlfriend. Oh, good to see you. Let's see. Jessie, heart to you. Thank you so much. I love you. Oh, you say you love my shirt. I love the shirt. It's actually a sweatshirt. It's very comfy, actually. I ordered it the other day, and it's an incredibly comfy Star Trek Lower Decks sweatshirt. I love it. I love it so much. Let's see. Many. Kieran, heart to you. Thank you so much. You said the Greek gods weren't even straight. Zeus himself had many gay lovers, one of them being, Ganymede. Yeah! That, again, 100% you could talk about that too. Odin, I know most about Norse mythology because that's what I've done a lot of, like, study of. Also, if anyone's curious, I'm doing a Norse mythology series in preparation for God of War Ragnarok over on GameSpot. So if you're missing some of my videos, there's 2 out right now, and there'll be 2 more coming over the next couple weekends of God of War lore. Like, Norse mythology videos that are sort of tied to God of War lore as well, if you're curious about those. But I know a lot about Norse mythology just because I have fun, and I did a whole video on that and did a lot of research on Norse mythology, so that was a lot of fun. But like Zeus himself also spent time as a woman as well, so like gods were fucking around and doing whatever. Or sorry, did I say Zeus? I meant Odin. I think I said Odin. I forgot. But yeah, no, they were all fucking around with gender and just fucking around in general, sometimes in really fucked up ways. See a lot of what Zeus did. Ew. But still, yeah. The Molly J. Heart to you said, did you see Shive's was Riker a womanizer video? Yes, I did. It was actually very good. I loved that he like did the if you haven't seen it, Steve Shives did a recent video of questioning whether Riker was a womanizer. And it's a really fun video. I loved his conceit where he's like talking to a portrait of Riker that he has on his wall. It was just a lot of fun to watch. So yeah, no, Steve Shives, great video. That was a wonderful video, and I thought that was a lot of fun. His jokes were excellent in that video. Oh, it's okay, Danny Miller Game. You don't have to watch all my videos right away. I make them for people to watch over a plethora of time. I don't ever expect people to watch 4-hour videos all at once. In fact, if I was smart, I'd split up the 4-hour videos so I didn't feel this need to like constantly make videos every week. But you know, welcome to my brain, and that's how it works. I'll read what she's reading. Heart to you. Thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate you. Sending you a little heart as well. Thank you for the unicorn, my friend. Mwah. Let's see. John Vittles wish Forgotten City had a Norse. Really, it should. They did. They had Egyptian, they had Roman, they had Greek, but they didn't do Norse. That would have been nice to do, but at some point you gotta stop. I mean, that game was made by one person for the most part, so the fact that he was able to do so much is freaking impressive. But it would be fun if he ever did. I hope we get a Forgotten City. I don't know if we could do a Forgotten City 2, but I would love to see a Forgotten City 2 if they ever did. Forgotten City's still one of my favorite games of all time. I love that game. Sam JB, heart to you. You said, good day, Jesse. My jaw still dropped after the House of the Dragon finale. It really did. I think so too. Like I said, I still have issues with House of the Dragon here and there. In some of its approaches to certain things. And then also less so to do with the show, but also like certain responses to the show. Like for example, this isn't House of the Dragon's fault necessarily, but I see a lot of like anti-fandom, like the quarterings and the nerdrotics of the YouTubes, and I'm probably going to be writing a video about this, about how they sort of play shows and antagonism with each other. I see a lot of like anti-fandom people who were ranting about House of the Dragon just a few months ago, being like, oh, it's gotten woke because they have a black guy as leader of a house, which like they always view race, they always view anything that's not a cis-het white dude as political. Anything beyond whiteness is seen as a political choice, so they always rant about people being woke because they added, you know, a black person to a thing. See black dwarves in Lord of the Rings, that they were whining about as well. But I now see them with a lot of what they're doing in terms of their sort of trying to create stoke antagonism within conversations and sort of stoke heightened emotions, is they've now framed House of the Dragon versus Lord of the Rings of Power. So they will constantly do things about being like, well, Lord of the Rings of Power, it's this woke SJW nonsense, whereas House of the Dragon, it actually has like nuanced good storytelling because it hasn't done all of this woke stuff. Not recognizing first off the fact that like House of the Dragon is itself like questioning patriarchy and questioning all these things. But what they'll do is they'll like look at like surface level things within the House of the Dragon of how it like depicts women and sort of leaves things open to interpretation at certain points to then fill in with their own sort of readings of it that tend to uphold or lift up a sort of cis male leaned focus, I guess, if that makes sense. Like they'll sort of be uncritical of characters like Kristen Cole, who like literally murders a person, and they'll be very judgmental of characters like Rhaenyra, who is a messy woman, no doubt, in that series. But like everyone's sort of like, I don't know if I like Rhaenyra, she's done some messed up things. Like, no, I am 100% on Rhaenyra's side as a character, because she's a messy woman in a world where women aren't allowed to be as messy as the men. But because the show doesn't make that like as textually clear, there'll be a lot of judgment around characters like Rhaenyra, saying like, well, she shouldn't have slept around with this guy, the like Harwin Strong. She shouldn't have slept with him and had kids with him. That would put her in a dangerous position. And I'm like, yes, but like, think about the fact that she's a woman who has been pressured into this situation her entire life. She wants to have an open like sexual relationships, which she should be allowed to have with somebody. Her husband is gay man and is accepting of her, like he seems very supportive of her going out and living and having sex with other men, but she has to hide it, the fact that she is sleeping with this guy. Like, so everyone in the situation is consenting, but she has to hide it because of the expectations placed upon her as a woman in this society. And you see scenes very clearly like where Rhaenyra like goes out to a brothel, and you'll see and aside from the very like incest and groomer stuff going on with her uncle there, which is its own Game of Thronesian messed up thing, but like as a woman she is seen as defiled just for simply possibly having had sex before marriage, whereas the show explicitly calls out men were allowed to literally go and have sex as much as they wanted, the adult male rulers of the city when they were kids, and not seen as defiled in any way because they were men. And so it's a show that like explicitly is about these things, but then like anti-fandom creators will be very critical, use like the surface level like upholding of patriarchal systems that you could see within House of the Dragon, the way that it depicts these things, and then sort of like rant about like Lord of the Rings having a strong women or black doors or whatever, saying it's anti-woke or whatever, because Lord of the Rings is a much more structurally obvious, much more has much more structural problems in terms of its writing. And so they're able to sort of like frame it in these like sort of anti-SJW ways that is always very frustrating when they stoke these types of antagonisms. Anywho, sorry I got off on a rant about that, but long story short, House of the Dragon's finale I really loved, and it's an interesting show to talk about in its weird situation in its place in a cultural conversation, as well as like anti-fandom, as well as its comparison to Lord of the Rings of Power. It's a very interesting show in that regard. I find it very fascinating to talk about as a series, because it just sits at this very interesting crux of a lot of cultural conversations right now. It's kind of an interesting, yeah, it's an interesting show. I really liked it. Also, the final dragon battle at the end, awesome. Everything I expected it to be from reading it in the books. Like, I read that sequence in the book, I was very excited about it. Hail Satan Anthony early. Hey, Lady Knight the Brave. Good to see you. Everyone go subscribe to Lady Knight the Brave's channel. Lady Knight the Brave is a fantastic YouTuber, makes some of my favorite videos that I adore. I'm trying to think of like some of my favorites here. Your Stargate SG1 video is still one of my personal favorites, Lady Knight. So please everyone go subscribe to Lady Knight the Brave's channel, because Lady Knight is amazing and I adore you being here. You are fantastic. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Sending you love, my friend. Hard to, whoop, my thing just jumped ahead. Lily's Hazel Eyes, heart to you. Thank you so much for your super chat. You said, as a classical history nerd, can confirm most gods say trans rights. Yeah. I mean, if you're a god, hell yeah, might as well be like, screw it, trans rights. I don't have to pay attention to these mortal idiots who are ranting about LGBT people are ruining the children. I was like, screw it, I'm a god. I can do whatever the hell I want. Trans rights. We love to see it. We love to see it. I mean, I love McKay's goes on a. Any cosplay that can incorporate McKay's ego is automatically more authentic. Thank you, Dark Excalibur. Rodney McKay is my favorite Stargate character. I love Rodney McKay so much. Calamar, sorry, Stay Hump, I see your super chat, but I'm just catching up on some of the ongoing chat too. Calamar, have you seen The Dragon Prince? Yes, I'm excited for season, I think it's 4 coming out very soon, and they added a trans mask character, which is awesome. Very excited to see that. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I like The Dragon Prince. It's, you know, it's got problems here and there, but overall, I really like the show. And then there's behind the scenes stuff too. But overall, I think it's a really fun show. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see more of it. Yeah, it's been a hot minute since we saw a season of it though, so I need to catch up on the storyline. There were some structural issues here and there, like, you know, the like very quick storyline where one of the characters became disabled and I think was able to heal it, which was kind of disappointing. You know, I would have liked to see a prominent disabled character in the show. But yeah, so it's an interesting show. Let's see. Stay Hump 10, Heart to You said, hey JG, have you heard of a show called There's Something About Miriam? It's like The Bachelorette, at the end they find out she's trans. Clearly a bad idea, and Miriam recently passed. I didn't. I did not know that. That sounds very exploitative about trans people. There's something about, and just that title is something is kind of gross. Yeah, that feels very exploitative, and then kind of plays into this idea of like trans women being like tricking people into having, like, tricking men into having sex with them, and so it like kind of plays off that disgust factor against trans women of like, oh, they think she's a woman but she's actually not, and now they're gonna be disgusted when they find out, and so you're like plays off of that like gross voyeuristic transphobic feeling. Again, I haven't seen the show, so I'm just spitballing here, but the way you just described it to me, that's kind of what it sounds like, but I haven't seen the show, so maybe there's nuance to it. It was made in 2004, according to this site, so I don't have much hope of that. But maybe I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Doesn't sound great though. Have you ever watched Sci-Fi Debris Star Trek reviews? Bumblebee 790 Hard to You. Thank you so much. Yeah, I did. Years ago though, not recently. It's been a while, but yeah, no, I thought they were decent. Yeah, I haven't watched them in a while. John Vinnell's Heart to You. Still can't believe Camila Nokita is a Trekkie. I don't know who that is off the top of my head. Why am I blanking on that? Is that a Forgotten City character? Oh, the Owl House. Yeah. Luce's mother in the Owl House. Oh, yeah. I always love, like, random Star Trek references in things. I've been, like, listening to, like, to go to bed to. I've been listening to Animorphs books, like Animorph audiobooks, which are a lot of fun. But I forgot how many Star Trek references are in Animorph audiobooks. If you have not listened to Animorphs, like, there is a Star Trek reference pretty much every book. In fact, there's, in one of the books, there is a line that just reminded me that, like, the author described an alien species that they encounter. The way she described it was like, it was as if the alien looked like a Cardassian from Deep Space Nine and a Narn from Babylon 5 had been merged together. And that's like such a specific reference that I'm like, oh my god, that is the most nerdiest of nerd Trekkie and Babylon 5 references, and I know exactly what she's saying, but like that's so specific of a reference in the book. I think a character was saying it. It was just like, yeah, there's a lot of Trek references. It's always fun when you see like Trekkie references and different things. Like, and yeah, Owl House recently in its season 3 premiere had like a Halloween episode, and so all the characters kind of had like there was like a Star Trekian style book that the characters found that was one of the main characters' mother's books, and so they like kind of had like a Star Trekian cosplay that they did, which is a lot of fun to see. So I'm always here for the Star Trek fun. It's really great. Chip Davis, I mean, Ben Shapiro raised about dudes, but subtext is kind of something conservatives don't jive to. I mean, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I mean, I don't want to be fair to Ben Shapiro, but to point to what his mistake in reading that book is. Oh, thank you, Jordan. Heart to you. Thank you for hanging out yourself. But like, Dune as a series is literally about like the white savior trope and the chosen one trope, how we in our society, I mean, you see it with people like Elon Musk, for example, like people who are like, our culture says like these are going to be the saviors of our society. Strange how they're always usually typically straight white dudes. And like there's this sort of mythological narrative around like these people that are somehow better than us. They're destined to control our society, and we like this sort of Ayn Randian sort of like, you know, sort of mecha uber why am I blanking on the word, oh my gosh, but like the people who are like destined to be the ones in charge of us, the chosen ones. And Dune is very much about breaking down that concept of like the reason we think these people are like that is because literally the systems around them are built to like create that mythology around these people and give them the tools to like have power over others, but it is all just like literal structural systems that create these mythologies and this like the divine right sort of thing. But so that's clearly like Ben Shapiro's missing that as like a series, because it literally would breaks down his conservative ideology of like authoritarianism is justified. But to give him some leeway, I guess, not that I want to give it to him, if he's only read Dune, then he might have missed it, because that storyline really requires like the rest of the Dune series, like the Dune 2 and 3, to like get the full picture of like how the main character is literally just a terrible choice for a leader. So like to give Ben Shapiro the benefit of the doubt, quote unquote, if he was lazy and only stopped by reading the first Dune book, I guess that's how you could take away that reading of it, you know? Because the whole book series, at least the next 2 books, are required to really get that full picture of like, yeah, no, this is just perpetuating fighting and awful stuff. So yeah, it's just kind of funny. Catching up on some of the super chats here. Let's see. John Vinnels, Heart to You, said some interpretations of the Bible actually read Adam and Eve as being androgynous beings before they were separated into one being, and they also read Abraham and Sarah as intersex possibly gender. I did not know that. That's actually really interesting. I wish more people knew that as a possible interpretation. I mean, I could definitely see that, especially with Adam and Eve. I wish more people knew that, because then if they actually knew that like trans people existed or like agender people or like different concepts of gender existed in the past, they might be more willing to accept it now. But we tend to think like God made man and a woman, and thereby God said that this is the best way, and that binary gender identities were like inherently more virtuous or whatever, and you shouldn't mess with God's plan. Nonsense stuff. Jordan, Heart to You, I already gave you that heart, but I'll give you another one. Mr. Krabs says, hey Jesse, have read Hex, H-A-X yet? And also the manga just returns from a 4-year hiatus. I'm assuming you read, but I don't know what Hunter, is that Hunter x Hunter? I have not. I don't read much anime. I need to. But yeah, Hunter x Hunter, I'm assuming is the series you're talking about. Yeah, Hunter x Hunter. No, I have not. I need to get more into anime, but I haven't watched a ton. One that I recently got into that is really fun, I haven't watched a ton of yet, but a friend of mine got me into. If y'all looking for a good anime that I got into, is I think it's called Love is War. I'm just making sure it's not Love is War. Yeah, Love is War. Which is a literal just anime about to a boy and a girl who basically they both have feelings for each other and want to ask each other out, but don't want to be the first ones to ask each other out because they think it'll be like a power. It will create like a power indifference in their relationship. Like they both have feelings for each other, but they're like don't want to ask each other out. And so every episode is kind of like that sounds like a funny romance storyline, but it's quite literally like every episode is like a game, like a chess game. So like there's like little scenarios that each episode sets up where like they like, all right, where they like constantly like think 10 steps ahead. It's like if I if she asks me out to go on a walk in the mountains, then that means that I will be seen, by accepting it, I will be the one who is like lose the power dominance. And it's also like an interesting discussion of class, because one of them is like she's from an upper class society, whereas the other one's sort of more middle class, but able to get into this high society school that they're both in, based on like his good grades and everything like that. So there's some interesting like class discussions as well. It's a very, if you like something like Death Note, but like the sort of like meticulous puzzle piece sort of like storyline of like thinking 10 steps ahead of like Death Note, it's very similar to that, but in a romance context, which is just a lot of fun. I would highly recommend it if you're looking for a good anime, because that's one I just got into that was just a lot of fun. Let's see. Catherine Lambeth, heart to you. Any plans for a spooky day Halloween? I'm working on a rocket broom for my Space Race costume. Oh, that sounds fun. I don't know if I'm doing anything on Halloween itself, but this weekend, the Seattle Museum of Pop Culture is doing a kind of a Halloween party thing. I forget what it's called. And I'm going to be there. What's their Halloween event? I used to work there, so I might actually see some friends there, but I'm going with another friend. The Fashionably Undead Bash. Which just looks like a little bit of fun. So I'm going with a couple friends to the Fashionably Undead Bash on Saturday, which just seems like a good time. You go have drinks and there's a costume contest and everything like that. So I'll probably go as 7 of 9. I'm thinking. I think it'll be a fun time to just go as 7 of 9. Oh, Council of Geeks, good to see you, Vera. But yeah, I'm not doing anything Halloween night because I think that's like a Monday. But I will be going to the Museum of Pop Culture thing with a friend for Saturday. So that'll be a fun time. Wait, let's see. Up here. Many Carrot, heart to you. As a Jewish person, I hereby officially excuse you from being fair to Ben Shapipu. Yeah. I mean, like, Ben Shapiro sucks. He's not as bad as, well, he enables Matt Walsh, and he also does some terrible things. You know, they're all suck. There's no need to qualify the amount of suck, and they all suck. They're all terrible. Matt Walsh in particular, but all of them suck. They're all terrible fascist or fascist appeasing, terrible people, grifting people for money, and reinforcing hierarchies of like white supremacy and sexism and racism and things like that. Yeah, they're terrible people. So yeah, fuck them. But I do like to make fun of them. That's fun. Cooking in silence, heart to you. Said sending love to all that you do. Your content is life, a break from the busy day. Oh, I'm glad. Cooking in silence. Mwah, heart to you. I'm glad. I hope that it's fun. I try to make it fun. Let's see. Oh, Ross Perry, you said, I loved your video on The Boys. I hope you cover one of the series. Yeah, I will at some point. When the new season comes out, I'll surely probably do a video on it. When season 4 comes out at some point. So yeah, almost certainly. I'm thinking of doing a few different things right now, but I gotta get over my anxiety a little bit about writing at the moment. I'll talk about that later on the stream once I get through some of the chats. Museum of Pop Culture's in Seattle, Private Trans Girl. It's a fun place. I used to work there up until about a year and a half ago. I worked there for about like 7 or 8 months, for about a year and a half, 2 years ago, something like that. It's a good place. I didn't quit. I just quit because I was too busy, not because I didn't like it there. They were very nice there. It's also a really cool museum. If you're a nerd, you should go visit the Museum of Pop Culture. It's a great museum. Let's see. Akita Hakubi, heart to you. Quantum computers are non-binary. Yes, they are. That is true. That is correct. Have you read Infect Your Friends and Loved Ones? No, I haven't. I'll read what she's reading. Heart to you, I have not. Right now, I'm actually reading Interview with the Vampire, is what I'm reading right now, because I'm loving the show. I saw the movie years ago. Don't remember much about it, but loving the show, and so I'm reading the book to sort of compare the show a little bit. It's I don't know if I'll end up doing a video on it. I'll definitely do a review of the season on my second channel. I don't know if I'll do a big video on Interview with the Vampire, but I am very, very excited about the show. So that's hilarious, Fight Mage Studio, that your brother and you got into my channel for different reasons. That's amazing. I love that. That's one of my favorite stories. I love that. I adore that. Hey, no comment chick. Everyone should go give No Comment Chick a follow, by the way. No Comment Chick is a wonderful little live streamer. She does great trans content, and I really enjoy I just started watching you the past week or so, and I've been enjoying your commentary and everything. So yeah, hello No Comment Chick, good to see you. John Vinnels. Oh, my super chat jumped ahead. Heart to you. Thinking about how Star Trek is heavily about cross-cultural exchange and empathy, while Our House is fundamentally about the experience of an immigrant in a new land. Yeah, no, that's a really interesting sort of comparison. Because yeah, Star Trek is not. You have some immigration-style stories in Star Trek, as well as outsider characters to certain cultures. Like Worf is not an immigrant per se, but he is someone who looks at the Klingon culture from outside, from within, even though he's part of it. Even though he is Klingon, and kind of romanticizes it in a way. But you could also take it Tendi, to a degree, is kind of an immigrant into Starfleet society because she comes from Orion society and Lower Decks, but she's sort of more accepting of Star Trek, or of Starfleet, than she is of her own culture, because she doesn't really feel comfortable as an Orion pirate. So yeah, there's interesting, that is something interesting about Star Trek. There's not a ton of immigrant storylines. Nog a little bit, but you don't get to see a lot of his experiences in Starfleet Academy and Earth. Oh, that's one thing. We got there's a comic book series called Star Trek Starfleet Academy that follows Nog at the Starfleet Academy. That was a great, if you have not watched it or read it, you should read Starfleet Academy. It's a great comic book series. And that gets into some of the kind of an immigrant experience that Nog faces. But it is interesting that Star Trek doesn't have a ton of discussion about immigration, despite it being being about cultural exchange. Kind of interesting idea, actually. Maybe there should be a TV show or character that kind of goes into that at some point. That would be kind of interesting. Heart to you, Ronak of the Rain Lords. Fallout New Vegas made me realize I'm bi. I need to replay Fallout New Vegas. It's been so long. I love that game so much. But I would. I'm trying to remember me realizing bisexual. The best game that I was able to explore my bisexuality within was Mass Effect. That was my game that helped me explore that. I don't know if that's how I figured out I was bisexual. I kind of figured out I was more bisexual in college. I was able to explore it better in college, because that's when I also gender for me was the bigger thing to figure out. That was what I was more struggling with when I was in high school, middle school, and elementary school before then. But gender kind of came first. Then my sexuality was kind of explored after that. I always kind of knew I was bisexual, but it was sort of less of a prominent thing because I was figuring my own self out first. Michael Hanline, hard to say, what if Mariner, Jen, T'Lyn love triangle thoughts? I wouldn't be against it. I am of the stance so Mariner, Jen, T'Lyn are all characters from Star Trek Lower Decks. I am of the fact that I don't think Jennifer is a good fit for Mariner, especially after some of the events that happened in the latter half of the season. I think Jennifer fundamentally did not see Mariner for who she was. She only romanticized Mariner for who she used to be, this rebellious person. And Jennifer had kind of romanticized that version of Mariner in her head, but did not actually see who Mariner was anymore, because Mariner had grown beyond that. And so Jennifer ultimately did not see Mariner. And ultimately, so I think it was kind of a bad fit because of who Jennifer's failure to recognize Mariner for who she is. It would be interesting to see T'Lyn and Mariner be together, though, because T'Lyn is kind of a pseudo version of Mariner. I mean, if you go back and watch the episode that she's in season 2, episode 9 of Lower Decks, Weech Dooge, she is meant to kind of be a reflection, a Vulcan reflection on Mariner herself. They have very similar rebellious natures against the society / entities that they are a part of. So they both kind of have that sort of rebellious streak. So if Mariner did end up dating T'Lyn, it would be kind of like them dating themselves, just with different temperaments, but kind of very similar outlooks on the world. So that'd be an interesting story. I'd be curious to see what they would do. You could do it, but it'd be an interesting one. Emma, sending you a hug as well. Thank you so much. Carlisle the Cinephile, I hope you're doing okay. I know the nonsense you've been dealing with after your Matt Walsh video, and hard to by Carlisle has been very textful to remind you that you are wonderful. Thank you, Carlisle the Cinephile. I've been hinting at it. I guess I'll vent about it right now, though I'm feeling slightly better about it. Just being open with all of you about what's been going on. The past few days have been a bit anxiety-inducing lately, for a few reasons. Number one, I've spent so much of the past few months hyper-focused on Matt Walsh and a lot of very anti-trans rhetoric. And I mean, to a degree, that's a lot of what the channel does. I talk a lot about that stuff, and I've certainly been talking about it for months and years at this point, and it's something that I feel called to do, and I hope it is helpful, and I feel like I'm good at it. But it's also, especially considering how difficult it has been for trans discussions lately, it's been rough to kind of be in that space for a while. And then also, so that, like, that headspace has been rough. And then, on the one hand, too, I'm actually very proud of that Matt Walsh video, even though I worked very hard on it. Well, I did work very hard on it, so I'm very proud of it. And there's this thing that, like, happens when you make a video like that as a creator, where you're like, how do I make that again? You know, it's hard when you create stuff, because, like, you make a project, and then you kind of, when you're done, you go back to square one. And then, especially when you just made something that you think is good and helpful, you're like, how do I live up to that again? And you have to, like, kind of reassess and, like, break down, like, okay, remember, it's a process. You start here. And then there's also just some of, like, the other stuff too, of, like, you know, you get the nasty stuff on videos like this. It's been I'm very glad that it's been less so on this video, just because I think a lot of people are taking it and really enjoying this one. But there have been people that are just nasty and awful. And that gets to you too, a little bit emotionally. The first Matt Walsh video I did was the worst one, because I think a lot of people came in on that one. Because that was only an hour long, and, you know, the people who want to hate on people tend to have shorter attention span. So a 4-hour video, they tend to not even bother clicking on. So that all comes around, and so just being honest, and thank you everybody. I'm seeing the kind thoughts in this stream, but I just want to be open about it. And I see the kind thoughts, but yeah, I'm feeling all that anxiety a little bit. And then there's also, like, that capitalistic drive of, like, I need to make something right now because the algorithm will give up, or my patrons will abandon me if I don't make content continuously. And I know that you won't. You know, I know you support me because you want to support me doing this stuff, but also taking care of myself and being able to do this stuff healthily. Like, I know that's why you support me. But there's that sort of, like, workaholic drive. Like, I'm not earning, you know, your support if I'm not constantly working on something. So being honest, the past couple days I've been trying to write, and I've been trying to write about like some videos that I like, some harder topics, and then there's some videos that I want to be inspired to do, like the Sex and Tuesday Sign video, that are kind of had, like, a kind of anxiety attack the past few days, because I've been very unkind to myself. I've written a video that I think the script is very messy and I'm not very happy with, and I sat with it yesterday and tried to write it, and I just sat looking at the screen in existential dread for 8 hours, which was not fun. And so it sucked. And thank you, Bug Guy Online. I appreciate you, Levi. So it was kind of a minute panic attack. I literally called a friend and kind of broke down a little bit to them. So it's been a little rough. I'll get back to it. It's just all that mixed with also realizing too where I'm at too creatively is I want to start doing bigger videos, like bigger in terms of the stuff that I create. In terms of, like, the ambition, not necessarily the size. I don't want to constantly be doing 4-hour videos all the time, but in terms of, like, what I did do in the Matt Walsh video, where it was, like, a lot of cool, like, I did a lot of bits that I shot in a bunch of places, filmed a bunch of places, like, I want to do that level of thing going forward, and realizing to do that, it's going to take time for each video, it's going to take longer for each video, because I have ideas for videos that I'm really excited about, but I know it's going to take time, and so there's that worry of, like, losing algorithm or losing patrons or things like that. So it's all kind of mixed up together. It's just it's a lot to feel all at once. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. So, anyways, thank you for indulging me ranting about that. Today was better because I wrote about Star Trek Lower Decks, and that kind of came out very easily, which was nice. It was nice to have a video that was easy to write. That sort of renewed a little bit of my confidence today. So today was good. But I appreciate all of you listening, and thank you, everybody. I see all your comments, like Lewis and Fight Mage Studio. Gourmet. I would love some new nut-free gourmet cupcakes, very much so. Miranda, thank you. You're extremely kind yourself. I appreciate you. And Corey, you and Vale. I saw Vale here earlier. I didn't respond. I didn't mention Vale earlier, but Vale, is good to see you as well. So yeah, I'm working on being kinder. I'm working on being kinder to myself. I know, Cyberquaker. I appreciate you. Contrapoints for this video seem to all right at the well-formed. I know, and I want to be able to do that. I have some videos that I'm really excited about. I just workaholic. Welcome to my brain, where I feel the algorithm tells you need to do it. I just feel like that. So it's like, I want to be able to make these videos. I have projects that I know I'm going to make that are really, really good, but I got to take time with them. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I'll probably be communicating that over the next few weeks of being like, I have some videos that I'm planning. Like, my plan is I have videos for the rest of the year. I have 2 or 3 more videos for the rest of the year, like the Lower Decks one, a couple comedy ones, and then a more serious one as well, that I want to do. And then I have bigger projects, like Queer Liminality, that I'm very excited about. It's a video that I'm like really excited about. Like, I think it'll be kind of a really fun and creative video. My Sex and Starfleet Deep Space Nine video, and then a few others on the side, and then a couple other projects beyond YouTube that I'm excited about, but might take some time. So I'll talk about that when we get there. I would do a video on Animorphs and Trek. Anyways, thank you, everybody. You are amazing. I appreciate you all. And then there's also the YouTube stuff too, which is its own whole conversation, which I'm not going to get into now because there's been some stuff on that front, but we'll talk about that. I'm going to catch up. I'm missing some super chats, and we're already getting into the latter part of the hour. Justine, I'll answer that in a second, actually. Latine Artisti, apology if I said your name wrong. You said, currently working on a research paper on how libraries can improve services for transgender folks. I wonder how you do research and able to detach emotionally. I'm having a tough time with it. To detach emotionally from, like, understanding trans stuff? I don't know. In terms of researching trans stuff, what I do is I technically, like, I have a huge, like, I have tons of books that I've already read, and, like, I kind of already, like, I listen to I just, like, kind of stay steeped in trans stuff, so I just read a lot of books, and then, like, when I do have a video that, like, I'm thinking about, I'm like, oh, I kind of already know where all these things are, like, right here. Just like I have this book, like, right at hand, Transgender Marxism, which is about, like, talking about Marxist philosophy in a transgender context. And I'm reading this right now, and it's actually very, very good. So I just read this for fun. And then when I'm writing a video, I'm like, oh, I know where that is. In terms of detaching emotionally from harder stuff of, like, talk to people, it's hard to. You don't always. You know, I had to watch a bunch of Matt Walsh. I had to watch What is a Woman? And it was a shitty experience, to be fair. It's, like, very shitty to kind of, like, watch a movie that dehumanizes you and content that dehumanizes you. And the way I try to cathartic, and that's, like, what I was just talking about, how it, like, it does hit you. It's not easy to do. Sorry, I'm just making sure my super chat thing doesn't disappear. But what helps is, number one, trying to get out from writing those things too. Like, go out into nature, hang out with friends, self-care a lot when you're writing about these things. So there's that element of it. The other thing too is to take breaks. What was the other element of it? For me, I have found that an important part of the process for me is not trying to just detach emotion from it, but to put the emotion into the work itself. One of the things that I always try to do with my content, sometimes I fail, sometimes I don't, you know, we tend to think of, like, debunking conservative or anti-LGBTQ or anti-trans rhetoric as is a purely intellectual enterprise. That's like, well, conservatives believe this, or this transgender, transphobic person believes this, And that's wrong. So let's like explain why it's wrong and how they got there and break down that ideology, right? I mean, think of it tends to be a very just intellectual enterprise, just stating facts and breaking down information. But what it often forgets is that a lot of, despite what they say otherwise, a lot of transphobia and a lot of bigotry and a lot of hate not only comes out of ignorance, which is very much the case, but comes out of an emotion too. Often fear or disgust. Sometimes mixed together. And so when I write, I try to be self-aware of the emotions that I am feeling and try to put that into the work to sort of reflect to the people who are feeling this what I am feeling, experiencing it as well. And sometimes that allows people who are transphobic to become empathetic because they see the emotions that I am going through, the pain, the hurt, the fear myself, and they can connect with that. Because I don't think it's just I don't think it's as effective if you just state. I mean, you can just state things, and just the intellectual enterprise, but I think the best video essays by people like FD Signifier or, you know, other folks, also bring the emotional element into it too, to allow people to have the empathy. But then also we'll empathize to a degree with those who are transphobic based. You don't want to give them too much credence because you don't want to validate them in any way, and also can be a detriment to your health, and also you need to also focus on the community that you care about the most and center them first, like for me, trans people. But also having enough empathy to understand like where they come from to try to like redirect their thought processes too. It's a very hard line to walk that I don't always walk perfectly. I think I fail sometimes I succeed. But you know, it's I think emotion, making sure to put emotion into the work that you do, I think is a very important aspect of it. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. And I'm not saying that people who only speak about emotion are bad. Like, there are people that I think that are great YouTubers. Like Sean, for example. I think someone mentioned Sean. Sean does a great job of just stating, stating facts. And I think that's very useful as well. I'm not saying it's not. But I think that for me, for what I write, I think that that's very helpful for me. Let's see. Many Kieran, Heart to You said, Anne Rice's vampire novels are the best. Wait till Lestat gets his sore spot in the sequels. I'm very excited. I know kind of like the vampire Lestat and like Queen of the Damned, like Lestat gets to have his say. And I'll be very curious about it too. But it's been interesting to see the show version because the show's been very upfront about the spousal abuse and abuse that is textually in the book, but much more like it doesn't like make you confront it as directly, though it is definitely there. Whereas the show is very much like this story contains and is in some ways about partner abuse and things like that. And I think that the show is directly confronting that in a very interesting way. I think I really like it. So the great and powerful Boo, Heart to You said, I came into your channel for the Trekkie trans humor. I stayed for your other humors and make you think content. Oh, thank you very much, the great and powerful Boo. Excuse me. I might need to stop soon because my voice is starting to get sore. I can feel it. Sorry, my throat was just getting a little bit scratchy there. But yeah, thank you so much, great and powerful Boo. Beardly Interesting, thank you so much for the super chat. That is an incredibly generous super chat. I appreciate you. And thank you, Gozer the Gozerian. I will take that. I am Aowen. I am no man. I love that. But need more Riker Beard. We all need more Riker Beard. Who doesn't need more Riker Beard, right? We all need more Riker Beard in our life. Riker Beard is the best beard, easily. Followed secondly by Ethan Peck's Star Trek Discovery Season 2 beard. That's a beard that I miss deeply. That is the second best beard. It is tea time. After this, I'm going to have tea. Carlisle the Cinephile, Critical Role is what helped me realize I was bi. I was in for Laura Bailey, Ashley Johnson, and Matt Mercer. I mean, to be fair, even like straight people ship all of those folks. All right, we all simp for Laura Bailey, Ashley Johnson, and Matt Mercer here, right? That's just a universal thing, right? You don't have to be bisexual, but no, I am glad that you were able to figure out you're bi from that. It's awesome how we're also often able to figure out our sexuality through fiction, or through fiction like things like Critical Role, even though that like there's real people involved in that. they're putting on a show. It just goes to show how representation, being able to see and articulate what you're feeling, is very important for us to understand our own sense of self and identity. Stories are about that, for telling us about ourselves. Under the Thunder, Jessie, I love you so much. I'm about Brandon Sanderson's book, especially Mistborn, the way you are about Star. I love Mistborn. I need to read more Brandon Sanderson. I've only read the 3 Mistborn books, and I love them to death. I did reviews of them. They are great, and I need to get into them more, but the Stormlight Archives, the ones that I keep wanting to read, but they intimidate me because they're like giant tomes. So I wanted to get into them, but the man writes like a machine. It's inspiring and intimidating. I love Mistborn. Fight Mage Studio. If you have not listened to Mistborn or read Mistborn, I listened to the audiobooks. Fantastic. Easily one of my favorite fantasy series of all time. Quick pitch. In a world where, if you want a quick pitch of Mistborn, just because I think it's great, it is a world where the Dark Lord won. So, like, there was hundreds of years ago a battle between, like, the stereotypical fantasy battle of the good guy and the bad guy, but in this one, the Dark Lord won. So hundreds of years later, and the Dark Lord has sort of set up a very aristocratic society with a lot of, there's literal slaves and stuff like that. And so our main characters are ones who are set upon doing a heist against the Dark Lord to try to help to fight against his power. So it's like it's a fantasy heist. And then the magic system's super interesting too, because it's a hard magic system, which means it has very explicit rules as opposed to like a soft magic system, which is like Lord of the Rings, where it's like magic, it's nebulous. Whereas Mistborn has like very clear rules. And the magic system that is at work is magic requires metals to use. So if you eat certain metals, you're able to use their power. However, each metal has a different power, and they're usually twinned metals. So one metal will sort of be the opposite of another. So one metal will let you push things, like push metal things, objects. Another will let you pull metal objects towards you. One will let you read emotions, while another will let you manipulate emotions, but you won't be able to read people's emotions. And most people who have this magical power, and there's only a few people that have it, can only use one metal at a time. Or at all. So they can only have one of the powers. And there are some characters, like our main character, who are able to use all of the metals, and they're called Mistborns. So that is the quick pitch for the series. I don't want to spoil too much because the way that series evolves is fascinating. The mythology and lore behind it is some of the most unique I've seen in fantasy. It's really, really good. So if you are looking for a great trilogy, and there's trilogies that take place after it, like different eras, like set hundreds of years after the first set of novels, but the first 3 novels are really, really good, and I would highly recommend reading them. It's really, really good. Cyber Quaker Heart and Lewis, thank you for saying hope you feel better. I appreciate you. Cyber Quaker says, on gender religion, I have a Quaker friend who wrote and performed a play years ago called Transfigurations, Transgressing Gender of the Bible. There's a film version of. Ooh, I'll have to check that out. Cyber Quaker. The Molly J. Hard to use said, Worf is very Russian in his personality, but is a cultural adoption exploring his birth culture and ends up being more Klingon than Klingon. Yeah, it's the roman. He is, well, number one, Worf is very Russian in his personality because his parents are Russian. We meet them in the episode Family, and they are actually Russian. So hell yeah on that. Well, Russia less so. As someone of Russian descent, I do appreciate having a Russian parents. But Russia as a like state, awful. Putin sucks. Just to be very, very clear. But anywho, but yes, he sort of romanticized Klingon culture because he wasn't part of the culture, and as a result, he kind of has this outsider perspective, but becomes, as you say, more Klingon than Klingons do, because he sort of has that romanticized, idealized version of a Klingon that he lives up to, that even people within Klingon culture sort of like, because they live in that culture and sort of like have a more like interior version of it, are just don't see that as much as he does. He's able to have that external view of it. But he also feels like an outsider to that society too because of that. So it's an interesting place that he's in. Akita Kakubi says, you mentioned that Celine Soul eventually got to college. Anyways, did she major in Karen studies? Oh, I'm sure. I don't know what she majored in. I just know she went to college. But yeah, Celine Soul is one of the people that the right usually likes to bring out to be like, oh, I'm the poor young white girl from high school who had these trans women beat me, and the biological males are taking things away from the women. Even though, like, I'm like, girl, like, I think she still does, like, Fox News interviews and things, like, for that. And it's like, this was, like, 3 or 4 years ago. Like, get something else to talk about, like, seriously. She's still a good, like, I'm sure she still does athletics. Like, it's just nonsense about how the right vilifies trans women in sports using, like, very specific cases and just, like, people that they're willing to prop up is like oh, they beat me, oh. I talked about that in the video. It's a whole thing. Hello, private trans girl. Can you do Russian accent? I am good, comrade. It is fun. It is fun times. This is probably mildly offensive to some people, but I do it. I do it for you. Cause you ask can you do Russian accent? I can do Russian accent. It's not that great. It's fine. It's very stereotypical, but there you go. So that was my attempt. I'm sure I offended some of you. Thank you, Corey. Love you. Jessie Shodell, heart to you. Just to give everyone a warning, pausing, please don't give any more super chats. I will try and keep up on this stream and everything, but no more super chats because I want to make sure I focus on the ones that are here and make sure I get to them before, because I'm going to wrap out the stream in about 5 minutes. So appreciate the super chats, but we'll just end then there. But I do want to catch up on these. Jessie says, have you seen the Orville episode about a girl? It's a great expression of gender identity and freedom to choose what you do with your own body, though sadly it doesn't have a happy ending. So I won't go into this whole thing, but I talked about a girl. So I have issues with that episode specifically of the Orville, because it is very much one that mixes a lot of issues of transgender issues, women issues, and intersex issues in a way that does not feel like it is fully understanding what those issues are about. It's a very mixed metaphor that I think has very detrimental and very harmful framing of how to view trans issues, especially with these sort of sad, like, pitying, bury your gaze style. It's not bury your gaze technically, but it does have that sort of like, oh, we always have to define ourselves by tragedy and sadness. That being said, and I've done videos on this channel and on my secondary channel that you should check out, I actually really liked the way that the Orville evolved that metaphor, especially in season 3. I think that they did a lot to rectify and actually improve upon and actually showcase a lot of empathy and showcase a lot of, like, learning on their part on how to write transgender metaphor storylines in season 3 by a wide margin. Not perfect. I still think that there's some issues, especially more based out of, like, just how the metaphor had been used initially. But I do think that they improved vastly in season 3 of the Orville. And I really liked it. If you want more of my thoughts, I actually did videos on that storyline. But yeah, I have seen it. I don't like About a Girl specifically as an episode, but I do like where they went with it in season 3 of the Orville specifically. Oh, thank you, Corey. I keep seeing Corey being wonderful. You're lovely, Corey. Let's see. Catching up on... No, I don't miss any super chats here. Okay, here we are. Fighting Words, the Martial Arts Library. Hard to use it. Just a general thank you. Wish you less stress in the coming days. Thank you, Fighting Words. Sending you love. Queerly Beloved, hard to use. Said, if you were an Animorph, what would you go to? Specifically bird morph? I think I'd want to be a sparrow or a robin, which I know isn't as tough as an eagle or a falcon, but I think they're cute. That would be kind of fun. Mine's just like a seagull, so I can get a lot of food and annoy people. I don't know. I feel like a falcon would be kind of fun because you're still gonna be like a predator and like not have to worry about getting eaten by somebody, but you're not like an eagle where you're like huge and dominating, and can kind of like have fun like sort of flirting around. I think a falcon. I think it would be very much like Tobias, right? Is the one that gets stuck in the falcon morph. So I think falcon actually would probably be the answer. I think that would probably be the answer for me. Or an owl. Owl would be kind of fun too. Because owls are my favorite animal, by the way. I love owls. Owls are easily my favorite animal. Catching up here. John, did Dana Terrace draw upon the Lord Ruler in Mistborn or the Necromancer Emperor in the Locked Tomb when developing Emperor Belus? Probably. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look at like his influences. I actually don't know on that front, John. Olivia Yeats says, gonna run to meet a friend. Well, thank you for being here, but I will leave with this. Just finished reading The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson, a remix of Stephen King Carrie, but a biracial girl living in a racist small time. Ooh, I will check that out. I always am looking for more book recommendations. The Weight of Blood. Right there. I don't know if you're still here, Olivia, but thank you for the recommendation. I will add that to my Audible wish list because I mainly listen through audiobooks nowadays because that's the time that I have here for. Weirdly interesting. Don't tell me what to do. Well, thank you. I appreciate your super chat, my friend. Mwah. And then last super chat here, Mr. Krabs. One last thing. I'm making a fanfic series that basically is each gentry to fight off a major threat that basically is connected to each other. The mystery and history of the world that's been whitewashed. Interesting. Ooh, that sounds really fun. You just is it just like when you're writing, or is it connected to like a Mistborn or something like that? Because that'd be really interesting. I would love to read that at some point. So. Anyone want to be a loon? Many Kieran. Oh, watch, I can do this. See if I can do it. I can do a loon call. Sometimes it depends on how like dry my hands are. Ah, it got close there. There we go. So I can do a loon call if you ever need it. That one's always fun. I always love doing that. Where Lemur says, is there a different kind of boob hurts that's the general off and on boob aching of having boobs in general? Because I haven't stopped in that 35 years of boob having. I don't know. I mean, I don't have much. I mean, I have some boob hurt when I like lay on them, but I don't really know. I can't really answer that. I'm very happy with my boobs as they are. I paid a lot for them. I better be. Alrighty, everybody. I am gonna wrap out announcements. Nothing big right now. Like I said, I'm working on some projects, but it might take a little bit of time for them. But I do have some big things on the way. The current projects, just so you know, I have a Star Trek Lower Decks video I'll probably be doing. I just finished writing that today, so I'll probably film it this weekend and hopefully get it out next week. We'll see how long it takes me to edit. But that'll be a review of Season 3. I have a Star Trek comedy video coming out that I'll be doing, that'll be coming out later next month. And then I have some bigger videos on the horizon that'll be like bigger analyses, but I just need to get up over my anxiety to write them. So hopefully I have more updates next week. But there are some things on the horizon that are just kind of like fun, lighthearted sort of things coming up. But bigger projects are still coming on the way. Might not stream this weekend just because I have the Halloween party, but we'll see. And I also have to film the Lower Decks video, so we'll just see how that goes. Yeah, I think that's where I'll leave it for now. Like I said, bigger projects on the horizon. Oh, actually, you know what? I will pitch this to everybody if you're here, because might as well. If you want some videos that I am currently working on, like I mentioned earlier, I am working on a God of War lore series for GameSpot that I'm actually kind of proud of. It's a little bit of fun. So I just put it in the chat. There's that video. There's one called, if you look up God of War Ragnarok, the mythology behind blank, there's one of Thor, there's one of Loki that's out. Both of those are already out. They're videos that I already did that I'm very proud of. You can check those out on GameSpot. And then this weekend I'll have one out on Odin. And then the week after next, I'll have one out on Ragnarok itself, like the event of Ragnarok. So check those out. If you want some more of my videos that I'm working on right now that aren't necessarily this channel, but check them out. They're kind of fun. So yeah, I'm still working on stuff. I got stuff coming. But thank you for allowing me the grace to take care of myself a little bit right now. And thank you for being a lovely community. Thank you for all being lovely people. I adore you all. You are amazing. I adore you. Mwah. Sending love to all of you. Take care of yourselves and live long and prosper.